Welcome everybody to another brand new episode of It's My Wrestling Podcast. I'm of course, as always, your host Chris Dees. Before we get started, like I always ask, please make sure you hit subscribe if this is on YouTube, and please hit follow if you're listening on audio platforms. Today's guest is a man I'm really excited to speak to. Been a long time fan of his throughout his long storied career. He's a TNA original, a 7-time NWA/TNA tag team champion, one half of one of the greatest tag teams to ever grace the industry in America's Most Wanted. He is, of course, the Wildcat, Chris Harris. Chris, from one Chris to another, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me on, man. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I've been wanting to get you on the pod for ages. I think I first got in touch a few months ago. I know we had a few difficulties, but I'm really glad that we stuck with it. Really glad that we managed to sort it out. How are things on your side of the world? Everything going okay?
Oh, things are great, man. The whole wrestling world is busy, so I'm really enjoying it, man, and trying to play my part in it. So everything's great.
Awesome. That's great to hear, man. Like I said, as a long time fan, that's really good to hear. I'm just going to get right into it then and ask you some things that I've been itching to ask you. So you made your debut around 94, made your way to WCW about 4 or 5 years later, towards like 99, 2000 sort of period. In your short time there, you wrestled names like Booker T, Mr. Perfect. Obviously, the company was bought out by WWE a couple of years later, 2001 sort of time. But obviously, you didn't head over to WWE when the buyout happened. Like, was there a reason that you didn't go? Were there ever any discussions for you to go?
Well, that was such a confusing time for everybody. But really easy thing is when they bought the company. Obviously, a lot of the top guys had their contract secured, and so they were able to sit it out for a while. A lot of the top to mid card guys are the ones that they hired on. So there was so much shuffling going on there. I was still one of the low guys on the totem pole. So I don't know if I was even on their radar, to be honest with you. I know a lot of the guys they were trying to build at the time, they did take and sent to developmental, and I'm talking about guys like Jindrak O'Hare. I think Mike Sanders was in there. I know Elix was part of that. So a lot of the guys that they were looking to build, WWE took and just pretty much sent to developmental and just took the pick of the litter. But I was even lower than that. So I don't even think I was on their radar. So nothing was offered to me. So I just kind of, it was a low point for me because it was, one of those things, you look for the big two, WWE and WCW, and I'd signed my contract in October. I was there the whole year per appearance, but I signed my contract in October of 2000. And within 6 months, one of the big two's gone under. So it was back to the indies for me.
So were you on like a long-term contract? Did they at least like pay off your contract so that then you could go and do other things?
No, it wasn't anything like that. My contract, I think I can't even remember if I had the 90-day clause in there. I probably had a 90-day where I was still getting paid. But then that was it. It was it after that.
Yeah. So how long would you have been on the indies for then? Not too long, because obviously TNA came along not too long after that, didn't it? Just a couple of years. So was it just? Yeah,
within a year. Yeah, I think. Let's see. The company went down. I would say April. I may have had another 3 months on that, and then by the following June is when TNA started.
Yeah. So at least obviously it was a really crappy situation, but at least it didn't last too long. So you just sort of like floated around the indies, did bits of work here and there, and then when TNA started, like, who made the call? Did Jeff Jarrett directly reach out to you to get you involved?
Well, I was heavily involved in the Nashville scene, and which is obviously where Jeff is from, and I had known Jeff from WCW.
Cool.
So yeah, I was still working a lot in Nashville. Maybe even. I'm trying to think of the schedule back then, but I think I was there at least once a week. So I was heavily involved there as was Storm. And then, the and especially during that year, considering WWE was the only thing around, there were a lot of smaller promotions trying to get noticed and trying to make a good start. And, there's a lot of those, and most of them just don't last. And so we had heard of another one getting started up by Jeff Jarrett. And in some ways we were looking at like, okay, here's another one, we'll see how far that goes. And on the other side, we're looking at it and, hey, this is Jeff that's involved in this. So we'll see how that goes. And like I said, Storm and I were very heavily in the Nashville scene where they chose one of the events in Nashville run by Burt Prentice, who was promoting it. And they were going to take a look at some talent. They were going to test the broadcast team and the announcers. And it was kind of a test run for that, but they were looking for talent. And Jeff was there. And Storm and I had a match against each other. And they took a look at that. And even though there was a lot of moving parts at the time, they did see that match and something got their attention. And so afterwards, yeah, Jeff took notice, and he told Storm and I both that he'd be in touch. And within a few days, Bob Ryder was on board with that and sent us contracts.
Awesome. So yeah, like you literally, that's the thing with the wrestling business, isn't it? Like you literally never know, like never say never. You never know what's going to happen. You were just sort of like,
you never know who's watching, man. I mean, because there were a lot of matches on that show, and some people got noticed. Biss got noticed. Even our referee, Rudy Charles, who now works for WWE, but he got hired out of that. So you just never know. I mean, I tell guys that all the time. All the events you go to, even on the indies, you just never know who's watching. One of those matches where even if you think, you don't have a great match, you didn't work great with this guy, you just never know who's watching and what could come from it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Just always bring your A game, basically.
Exactly.
You just never know. You never know. So you mentioned Storm in there, and obviously I said in my intro, America's Most Wanted. I wanted to ask about your pairing with James Storm. Like, obviously you mentioned that you wrestled together against each other on the indies, and that's how you got noticed and you got brought over together. But how did the pairing come to be? How did the tag team come to be? Was it one of your guys' ideas, or was it pitched to you to get together?
Not at all. Storm and I had known each other from that territory down there, and we were good friends. Mostly wrestled against each other and had great matches together. We even as opponents, we had great chemistry. I think in the early days of TNA, there was just so much going on. They obviously needed some star power, so I think they were heavily focused on some of the big names, the stars. But they also wanted some homegrown talent. And Storm and I was part of that. They knew they wanted to do something with us. Obviously, AJ was in that category as well, AJ Styles. But yeah, I think they wanted to do something. They just didn't know what direction to go to. So it was one of those. A lot of people fall in this line where it's like, okay, put these guys together. Let's see what happens with that. So it was honestly something that was just kind of thrown together. And Storm and I, of course, in our minds, we're thinking, well, we want to be singles guys. That's what we've done our whole careers. But that's not how it works in wrestling. You take what they give you. And they put us in a team and said, let's roll with it. And Storm and I looked at each other and we were like, okay, if this is what we got, let's get together. We're going to be the best damn tag team out there. If that's what they're giving us, we're going to roll with it. And from then on, that was our focus. That was our direction. And Storm and I were determined and did everything that we were taught about tag teams. And I think that's really what got it noticed was tag teams in 02, 03, they just, and like we said, WWE was really the only game in town. So, and they were not doing much with tag teams. I mean, the most you would see with tag teams then is two singles guys thrown together. I mean, you can look it up. There was just not a lot of focus on tag teams. Two guys would team up. They'd win the titles. They'd lose the titles. They'd break up and all this within a year. And then they're feuding. And it was just, there was no interest. I mean, it was just not exciting at all. And what Storm and I were trying to do was bring back the old school tag team wrestling. We watched guys like Rock and Roll Express, the Horsemen, Midnight Express, Heart Foundation, the Bulldogs. I mean, that's what we grew up on. And so we wanted to get back to where it was exciting to watch a tag team match. In my opinion, sometimes tag team matches can be more exciting than singles. You got 4 guys instead of 2. So yeah, that's what we did. And I think that's really why we got the attention that we did, is because we were giving the fans something to root for again, to get exciting for. And I think that's why, out of nowhere, it was like, what is this America's Most Wanted team doing? So yeah, it was just a really determination on Storm and I's part, and we wanted to really make a name for ourselves, and I think we did.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you definitely did. I've always wondered about it's a really good point you make of how they used to just take 2 random single guys, put them together, rinse and repeat. You'd always get the same sort of programming and the feud, and it's exactly what you said. And even nearly 20 years later, that's what WWE seem to be doing again, because they're on the verge of splitting up Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, and I'm sure we're going to have the same old played out storyline happen again with those guys, which is a shame to see. But I always wonder, like, when you take 2 singles guys who are so used to just being singles guys, and you throw them together as a tag team, like, how do you adapt? Like, is it difficult having to adapt to not being the sole focus of the match anymore? Did you get much training from any like tag team specialists? Because I know TNA, obviously, like you said, they brought in loads of great experience, loads of former top guys from other companies, from WCW, from WWE. So was there anybody in particular that like helped to mold you guys?
I think a lot of it was just us just watching videos, watching, at least back then it was, watching a lot of tapes and studying, and we were trying to apply that. We worked on some tag team moves, we worked on some finishing moves. And so I don't think anybody really took us under their wing. We learned a lot. I know we watched a lot. They brought the Rock and Roll Express in, so we got to work with them. That was an honor to be able to get in the ring with them. I know Ricky Steamboat pulled us aside a couple times and helped us out. He's, whether it's singles or tags, you can't do wrong by listening to Ricky Steamboat. But even in the later days, we got our name, and we were focused on the tag team wrestling in the 02, 03, 04 days. But even later on, like when they brought in Team 3D, the Dudleys, we were still learning. I mean, we were on the learning tree that whole time. Even though we were doing something good, you never stop learning. And I appreciate working with those guys. And even they were the James gang with us, but the New Age Outlaws, when we got to work with them, you can't go wrong getting to work with guys that have been there and done that. And we were still, we may have been a few years in, but we're still learning to try to be the best. So. Getting to work with a lot of those kind of guys, was always an honor and a privilege, and we learned a lot.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're always learning, no matter how long you've been in the business. Obviously, I don't know that, but I've spoken to, I can't remember who it was recently. A few months ago, Jazz. I think it was Jazz I spoke to, and she said even now, like as she's on the verge of retirement, everybody that you wrestle, even once you've been in the industry for 20, 25 years, however long it's been, if you wrestle somebody new for the first time, they are probably going to bring something new to the table that you've not wrestled before. So, when you said the Dudley Boys, and they were the guys that I was thinking of, but I thought to myself, no, because they came in a few years later, so I don't know if you would have learned much from them. But like you said, they were new to you guys, weren't they? So, getting in the ring with them for the first time... In terms of tag teams, there aren't many better tag teams to learn from than the Dudleys.
Right.
So yeah, awesome. Going back to like the early days of TNA then, so I wanted to ask about the Gauntlet for the Gold, which was won by Ken Shamrock, obviously. Bit similar to WWE with the Royal Rumble. How was that idea pitched to you guys at the time, and like what was it like knowing that you were a part of something that helped to make TNA feel like a legitimate big time promotion? Because obviously pay-per-views were a bit different for TNA, weren't they, at the start? They were like weekly specials.
Yeah, it was a different kind of concept with the weekly pay-per-views, and it was obviously a lower price with the $9.99. But I think a lot of people look at it now like, okay, that'll never work, and even guys looking back, but it was a good start for the company. I mean, look at where it led us. It led us to a TV deal. So, it was just that we still had to look at it like episodic TV. And that was the first one. Like I said, they knew they wanted to do something with us. They just weren't sure. So I was putting the gauntlet for the gold, which, focused on a lot of new stars, a lot of big names in that. So I was just happy to be a part of that. I mean, it showed me that they were looking to do something. And then Storm was in a tag team match. I honestly can't remember what that was. I think he was teaming with Juventud Guerrero. Maybe I could have that wrong, but same thing. They just knew what they wanted. And by the second week, we were put together. So it was a feel it out process that first night, but hey, we were just happy to be a part of that pay-per-view. And we look back on it with fond memories. Shamrock won that, but that's the direction they were going. They were going with Ken Shamrock, and you couldn't have a better start for an NWA champion. I mean, it was great to be a part of that, and I think we were off to a good start and going in a great direction.
Yeah, and you say, you look back on it with fondness, and it was cool to be part of something, and they knew what they wanted to do. Looking at what TNA has now become, obviously evolving into Impact Wrestling, what do you make of the company now and what they've been doing in the last few years? Because they've ridden a wave of momentum for the last few years, and they haven't really stopped. Like, Slammiversary is always the talk of the wrestling community when it comes around, or the couple of months before it. Hard to Kill, just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, was fantastic. Do you still keep up with what's going on now in the industry and with Impact?
Yes, I actually try to keep up with everything. I try to get what I can out of NWA. I was trying to keep up a little bit with Ring of Honor. I mean, I try to keep up with the product because there's some struggles right now. We've seen with the Ring of Honor, but I'm just excited that there is so much out there right now, and I really love that a lot of guys can jump aboard, and there's just more opportunities for a lot of guys out there, and that's what I want. I mean, there's so much talent out there. I would love for all these guys to be able to get under contract, be able to make some money, and do all that. So especially Impact. I am very excited that they're still around. Number one, we're coming up on 20 years. That's a big thing, man. And yes, there have been struggles here and there. They still have their TV deal, and I know they've been back and forth. Access TV is just it's not as I don't know how to say it, but just not made available to as many as much as the audience as we would really like. So Scott DeBoer's in charge of that. I think Scott's a great guy to lead that. He's got great talent. And like you said, Slammiversary, I think a year or two ago, I think it really kickstarted because we had a lot of guys on that were released that were looking for work, and they brought in some really good names. And I think that can really take them to the next level. That's what we need to get back to. Gallows and Anderson were a big addition. Eric Young, great addition. Now they have Big Cass on there. I mean, there's just some really good names that can take this place somewhere. And then the homegrown talent. I mean, what they've done with Moose. I mean, I was a big supporter of him, man. Coming up, I was like, that's the guy they need to go with. And we see that's what they did at was it Slammiversary or Bound for Glory? I think Bound for Glory. When he took that, and I'm a big Josh Alexander fan, so it was great to see him climb to the top. But that's the direction we went, and when Moose cashed in and got the title. So, but either way, both of those guys, top guys. But I really see where they can go somewhere with Moose. I mean, he's the one that can carry. That's the thing. When you're picked as his top guy and you are the world champion, there's a lot that goes with that a lot of people don't realize, and Moose can carry the company when he puts that shoulder around, or the strap around his shoulder, or on his shoulder. He's the one carrying the company, and when you look at him, you're like, okay, that's the guy. That's believable, man. I mean, that's legit. So I'm really excited where they can go from here. and I got some catching up to do with the product, but yeah, man, I'd love to see where they go from here. But I am very excited, and I'm proud to look when I look at Impact, and I'm like, that's their world champion. That's something to be proud of, man. I mean, Moose can carry that.
Yeah, he looks legit, doesn't he? He looks like a star. Like you think of a wrestler, and not to, I'm not.
He looks like a star.
Yeah, exactly. He looks. He's the kind of guy that you would send to do like talk shows and PR and stuff like that. And if you looked at him, you would think, oh wow, yeah.
Absolutely, man, and that's what I'm talking about. That goes along with it. You can feel comfortable sending that guy out for the PR, and the whole presentation from start to finish. When he makes his entrance, that a star is coming out. The music, the lights, his look. I mean, he's got it. So let's run with that.
Yeah, man. 100%, couldn't agree more. I felt bad for Josh because I'm a big fan of Josh. I've interviewed him.
Right.
Chat with him. He's an awesome guy, really nice guy.
It was both a letdown and excitement because Josh got there. I was excited for that, but then when I saw where we were going with it, it's like it's a letdown for Josh because I was even sending him messages, man. This is your night. You got this. And I was very supportive of him, and he was very appreciative of that, but. I was just as stunned as everybody when Moose came out, and because I wanted both. I think all of us did. We were excited for Josh, but when Moose took that, it was like, okay, that this is what I've wanted for the past couple years anyway. So, but I think it's a great direction, and there's a lot in Josh, man. He's not done by any means.
No, God no, absolutely not. I hope not. Anyway, right. So I've got to ask about Fake Sting. I would be remiss if I didn't. You played the role of Fake Sting a couple of times, WCW in around 2000, Crow Sting around 2006, again a few years later. How did that come about, the idea for you to be Fake Sting? And did you ever speak to Sting himself about it? Like, how did he feel about that whole story?
Oh, yes. Sting was on board, man. Even back in the 2000 in WCW, they obviously had taken a look at me because I was getting a lot of matches with names such as what you said. And but I just had that look, I guess the same kind of build, and the hair obviously made a big difference. But, yeah, the whole Crow Sting was it, man. And when they were looking to do something. I can't remember. I think Sting may have even had some time off, but he was doing something with Vampiro at the time. And so there were a lot of shots that we were doing. I know I did some coffin shots that we had something like that where I came out of the coffin as Sting and beat the hell out of Vampiro with a bat. There were even some of those where I was in the rafters. They got some shots up there where they, it was kind of a glimpse. Some people may have known, some people may not. But and then the big one was Halloween Havoc 2000 when I came out from under the ring with Sting and got to battle him one-on-one with that. So yeah, I think Sting was on board with this. Some of the past Stings weren't. I think it kind of turned out to be a little bit of a joke, but mine, I feel like was more serious, which is why they gave me more of a run there with it, where we did something with Sting at Halloween Havoc. So that was exciting for me. And yeah, Sting was the one that painted my face. So it was kind of cool when he was doing it. He even looked at me. He was like, "Man, this is weird. This is like looking in a mirror." I think he was referring back to his Crow days, and so that was really cool. And I got close with Sting, and when they brought Sting in for TNA, it was great to work with the guy. I mean, it's hard to find somebody to say something bad about him. It was very exciting to have him on board. I think he helped put TNA on the map, and then we continued to do something later on. We did a little something in 2006 where we relived some of his past Sting characters. I was part of that, and then even 2000, I think 10 or 11, I did a little something with Jeff Jarrett and TNA. So yeah, it's kind of like it's reoccurring. If you're ever looking for a Crow Sting, Chris Harris is your guy.
That's not a bad backup plan, is it, to have? If you
not at all, man. I'll take it.
Be Fake Sting, why not? What did you just to move on from that a little bit, but remain on Sting? What did you make of the way that WWE used Sting, because at the minute he's being used so well in AEW. Like I had worries. I think a lot of people had worries about him resting every single week. He's like 62, but last night on AEW Dynamite he looked incredible. Obviously WWE didn't really use him as well as they could have done.
No, I mean I don't mind giving my opinion on that. I think that's a general consensus that it took years and years for them to finally get him. He is an icon, and I've never had a chance to talk to Sting about it, but I think he would probably agree that they didn't use him like he should have, and but that's are we really surprised about that? I mean, they get the biggest star from WCW and don't do much with him at all. When he gets his WrestleMania moment with Triple H, I think it was exciting. We got DX, we got the New World Order. I mean, that was all exciting, but in the end, they kind of put down the legend, the icon. So no, I think they could have done much, much more, especially when he had more in the tank. I think Sting's even gone on record that he would have loved to have worked something with The Undertaker. I think we all would have loved that. I'm not sure why that didn't happen, but it didn't. And now here we get a little bit left of Sting, and I think that he's in a position where he can do that. He's taken Darby under his wing, and I think the whole locker room is probably going to learn from him. But yeah, if you're ever wondering, some people might look at it, we're going to hide him in a tag team match with Darby, and Darby's going to do all the work. Well, that's not what we saw last night. Darby was taken out, so Sting did all the work, and he hung in there, man, and he performed, and we got what we can look for in Sting nowadays, and that's exactly what he's there for. He's there to sponge off of and to learn from, and when his name is popped up to deliver, he can do that too. So I think we were all a little disappointed in the run in the WWE, but he is in the Hall of Fame and he deserves that. And he probably thought maybe that was a good ending, and I think that's why he said that. But when we have an opportunity with AEW and see where they're going, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? So I'm really glad Sting had that opportunity, and hopefully he can when he's ready to officially end his career. I think he'll be happy that he actually got a one last good run where he can contribute what he has for the business. So I think we're all happy to see where he's at right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the brief WWE run, it felt like it was done for two reasons, really, didn't it? One, to get him in the Hall of Fame, so that they had a marquee name for that year's ceremony, and then also to sort of remind people that WWF won the Monday Night Wars. It really felt like they were just trying to drive that point home, like, this was WCW's guy, and we're going to beat him again. It just felt like...
Yeah, if there's any doubt, let's make it clear here.
Yeah, let's do it on the grandest stage of them all. You mentioned Jeff Jarrett in there. I'm glad you mentioned Jarrett, because I wanted to ask about Planet Jarrett. So you wrestled Jeff a number of times before ending up being a part of his faction. What was Jeff like to work with? Was it similar to Sting? Was he good to work with? Did you learn much from him? Because obviously he's another legend of the business.
I learned a tremendous amount from Jeff. And you have to remember, when this thing is all started, he was wearing a lot of hats, man. I mean, he was doing everything. And there was I'd say a small group of guys that he could really depend on to get things done. And but a lot was weighed heavily on him, and a lot was weighed heavily on just a small band of guys, man. So in those early days, I mean, he was the head guy. And I think a lot of that, you have to remember, we have to, we started with Ken Shamrock and then did some transitions, but once Jeff was the top guy, I mean, that's the thing. You have to go with somebody that you trust, that can carry the ball. And Jeff has done it before, and who better? A lot of people are like, "Oh, Jeff wanted a promotion so he could put the belt on himself." Well, I mean, you got to look deeper into that. I mean, when you're going with the direction, Jeff Jarrett, the name is a name. So yeah, you can put the top guy in there. And then we were just saying it before, when we were referring to Moose, I mean, Jeff can be the PR guy, it's his company and he's running it. And when you talk about the top guy, what better than, it's a safe bet. Jeff can handle it. And who more than Jeff to trust himself with that? Because you never know, when you go with a different direction, there's just a lot of factors that go into that. So I think Jeff was the right guy for that. I had a chance to work with him, and that was great. I had a little singles run, and I think it was 2004, and got to work with him and a lot of top guys at the time. AJ was one of them, Raven, R-Truth. It was just great to be able to work with a lot of those guys at that time. And I learned a lot working with Jarrett, and I also learned a lot, maybe not so much at that time, but just to listen to Jeff talk business was just incredible. He had learned from his father. He had learned from what to do and what not to do from WCW. So he brought a lot to the table. And I think that was why TNA was so successful. And, you can even hear on his podcast now when he talks about the old days, it's like, man, this guy has a wealth of knowledge that, I learned going through it at that time. I was picking up on little bits and pieces, but even myself, someone that was there, I learned a lot just listening to his podcast, because there was a lot on the inside that we didn't know. So it was great. Planet Jarrett was a real thing. I learned a lot, and a lot of us did. And even being grouped with him later on, when the unthinkable, America's Most Wanted, turned heel, aligning themselves with Jeff, and then Ad Gale came into the mix. I mean, it was a great fold, man. And we all learned a lot, and we fed off heat, which is what we wanted. Jeff was the top guy. We were the top tag team. What's going to happen when we're put together as a faction? And we ran with it, and really enjoyed it, man. It was a great run, whether working with him, teaming with him. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's still a part of my life today. And I love it, man. We talk once a week. So wealth of knowledge, and I'm still learning to this day.
Awesome. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I only had a very short interview with him. It was about 15-20 minutes, but the whole time I just sat there like almost in a stunned silence, like just listening to him talk, the way that he talks about the business.
Can you imagine listening to that for an hour or longer? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, he's so knowledgeable, so passionate. You made a really good point in there as well about how people look at companies like AEW, they look at the elites, the VEPs, whatever you call them, and how those guys keep holding the belts. Like Cody's been TNT champion, Omega and Jericho have been AEW champion, and people look at it like, oh, they just want to run a company so they can put the belts on themselves and get themselves over. But when you're starting a brand new promotion and you're trying to go head to head with WWE, putting the belt on Chris Jericho, the name Chris Jericho, a guy who knows the business like that, similar to how Jeff did, you can't go wrong. Like, you need to go with somebody dependable, somebody reliable, somebody who's been there and done it. And obviously Jeff and Chris have both been there and done it dozens of times, haven't they? So I don't see how that could be a bad thing.
No, I think Jericho was a great choice, and it wasn't a matter of he just wants to beat you. And Jericho he's got a name. Why not? If you're going to put AEW on the map, why not go with Jericho at that? And he had a great run with it. And then as Jericho has his run, we're building new stars with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. I mean, we're building stars. So when the belt goes on them, they have the talent to back it up. But you have to build them so that it makes sense when that time comes. So I think Jericho was a great choice. I think he carried it well. He still has some in the tank, so he was getting to help bring guys up to his level, which is what he did. All the while, they're learning from him. I think MJF was a great example. He got to learn from Jericho one-on-one, and I mean, look at how this guy's taken off. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if, we see MJF on camera, but behind the curtain, I wouldn't be surprised if every day MJF is learning from Jericho still to this day. So, yeah, man. I mean, like you said, a lot goes into that when you're putting the top guys on top. Whether it's titles or not. I mean, you have to focus around those guys. Even in the tag team, of course, that's the direction I go. I may not. The Young Bucks may be a different style than what I had, but that's the direction that we're going. And when people watch a tag team match, we want to see something exciting. We want to see action packed. And even if the Young Bucks are on top with the belts, I mean, that I go back to what I was saying. If they're executives in the company, I mean, they know what direction they want, and when it's time to put a young, hungry tag team back on top, then they'll do that. And I think, again, I have some catching up to do with that, but to give that direction with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, I mean, let's see what they got. Again, we have built them up for a few years now to where it's great that they get a chance to run with it, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm a big fan. I'm not ashamed to admit it, man. FTR, I'm just a big fan. When it goes back to the old school wrestling, man, those are the guys. So I can't wait to see where they go with that. And you can't go wrong putting having them take the reins and run with it in the tag team. So they have a lot of talent, man. I mean, they can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I criticize AEW for a lot of the things that they do. There's a lot they do really well. There are some things that I'm not keen on, especially like the women's, what they're doing with their division. But the tag division, I don't think you can really go anywhere else and find as good a tag division of AEW have got. A lot of the time it seems like they don't know what to do with them because they've got so many great tag teams. You end up getting loads of 4v4 and 5v5 matches that feel a bit unnecessary, but they do tag team wrestling so well. And like you say, especially when you've got guys there like FTR and the Bucks. The Bucks may not be to everybody's tastes. They're not my cup of tea. I prefer, as you said, FTR. I prefer that sort of like rough style of that old school style of especially being British. That's the kind of wrestling that I was brought up on. So. No, I love what they're doing. I'm a big fan of big fan of tag team wrestling. It's what got me into wrestling. So there we go.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, they have the talent, and I mean, we can all be that Monday morning quarterback. We can watch the show, and we're not going to like everything, but there's some that we are going to like, and I mean, I'm glad you said it. The Bucks are not my favorite tag team, but I'm more of the style of FTR, and but you got to give it a little bit of everything, man. I mean, some people obviously the Bucks have a lot of fans and they like watching them, so we got to give a little piece of that. But we also let's give them a little piece of FTR and that kind of style. So you keep the interest with guys like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're completely right. That's the good thing about AEW. It feels very much like a variety show in a way, if you know what I mean. Like there is a bit for everybody. You like singles wrestling, you like women's wrestling, you like tag wrestling, you like high spots, you like hardcore stuff. There is a bit, promos, entertainment, nonsense, silly things. People like Orange Cassidy. There is something for everybody. I think that's why it's become so popular so quickly. It's already been.
I agree, man. I'm not a fan of everything, but there are fans and that do support what they're doing. And I mean, the AEW is growing, man. I mean, they get criticized a lot for when they're trying to take over WWE. Just look at it as an alternative. I mean, if you like WWE, watch it. If you want to watch AEW, then support them too. It's different nights. So I mean, why not? The AEW is trying to. They're not going to put anything out there that they think is going to put them down. So everything they put on screen, there's a little taste of that for everybody, like you just said. So if I just look at it as an alternative, stop looking at it like AEW's trying to take over WWE and maybe put them out a bit. Yeah, let's not even go in that direction, man. Just watch the product, enjoy it. Take what you like and leave the rest.
Watch what you enjoy and let other people watch what they enjoy. It's simple, really, isn't it?
If you're not into this tag team match, then that's okay. Maybe the next segment you will like. If you're not into women's wrestling, maybe let's watch the next segment and get excited with that. So yeah, man. I mean, that's we got to be an open mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's a shame a lot of fans don't think and feel the same way that we do. I wanted to ask about something that I don't know if it exists. I've heard it spoken about within like wrestling communities and social media and news articles and things like that. As a TNA original, I imagine you've seen hundreds of wrestlers come and go on to other things and go on to WWE and whatever it might be that they've done, Ring of Honor, New Japan, wherever. I always hear about the TNA stink, and I know a couple of wrestlers have spoken about it. I'm pretty sure AJ Styles has referenced it himself. Is it a real thing? For anybody who doesn't know, the TNA stink is sort of, I don't know if it's a myth or a legend or something like that, where wrestlers who go from TNA elsewhere are sort of looked at less favourably because they've been in TNA, and TNA obviously had problems for a little while and some questionable booking and obviously business issues. Is it a real thing?
I mean, I'd probably be naive to say that it's not. Maybe it is. I'm proud to look back on that. Yeah, when I get questioned about my career, I'm proud to say, I was under contract to WCW, maybe only for a year, and it was the year that took him down. But I'm proud to say I was under contract. I can also say I'm proud to say I was under contract to WWE. Didn't go the direction that a lot of us hoped it would go, but hey, man, I made my name in TNA, and I am so proud of that. The fact that it was the little engine that could, man. We started from the bottom, and guys like Jeff, built this thing up, and the support of Dixie Carter. We built this thing up, and a little known tag team called America's Most Wanted thrown together. We try to do what we could. As far as the tag team division, we weren't focused on the top names and the world title. And then there's the X division. We weren't focused on that. That was, we let those guys that knew what they were doing run with that. AJ, Chris Daniels, Elix, Low Key, guys like that, Saban, Sanjay, those guys. I mean, that's their thing. So let's let them run with that. So we took care of the tag team, and we wanted to build that up. So, yeah, I mean, some guys will look at like myself. TNA was the big dog for me. I mean, we built that up to where it was. I mean, we were running every week on Spike TV. We were doing our. Lost me there for a second. We were doing our pay-per-views once a month. It was a big thing, man. So I'm proud of what I did in my career there. And when I mention TNA, when we're talking in interviews or podcasts or anything like that, people know what I'm talking about. A lot of fans watch that, yeah, they're made a lot. I think a lot of it has to do with the years. I know, when Hogan and Bischoff and guys like that came in, and I think it was 2010, they tried to run with it for a while, but by the time, 2013, I'm going to guess, that's when the direction kind of, soured. A lot of guys left. When we talk about that, the AJ, Bobby Roode, Eric Young, a lot of the top guys that were built up, had to move on. And it's not just hey, we're giving up on TNA. You got to look at those guys, what's going to be best for their career, what's going to be best for their family. And if the WWE was the direction to go, I mean, we see, that's a possibility. Obviously, AJ has made, he's the top guy in the business right now. So it works out for some, and it doesn't work out for others. Everybody's got to take the direction that they want to take. And I don't look at it as a bad thing when people bring up the TNA. I would hope that a lot of guys don't look at it like that. Eric Young is back into it. So I think he's doing his best to put Impact back on the map, man. I mean, that's what we got to do. They're going to need a lot of good talent. They have the base right now. I mean, they got guys like Scott D'Amore running it, who I feel like he knows what he's doing and taking they have a lot of the producers. I mean, they have the guys to make it work. But just to get back to your question, man, I try not to look at it as a stink on TNA. I don't know, maybe when people first had come out of there, when it was going in a lower direction, maybe a lot of guys went through that. Maybe AJ went through that. Maybe Bobby Roode went through that. I know when I went up, that I think that's, they didn't want to have anything to do with TNA. They were just trying to take what they could get and go a different direction. So I don't know, man. Everybody's got their opinion on that, but I am a 100% a TNA Impact supporter, and I want nothing but good things from them. And I am so grateful for what I was able to take out of that. So I'm proud of them, and I hope they stick around for another 20 years.
Yeah, I've always just been curious because it doesn't make sense to me, because I think, okay, sure, I can appreciate what this stink might be, but then look at, like you say, AJ, Samoa Joe, Xavier Woods, R-Truth. There have been plenty of guys who have left TNA, Impact, whatever it might be, and gone on to Bobby Roode as well. He's been successful since TNA as well. There's loads of examples of people that have gone elsewhere and still been huge stars. So no, I've just always wondered if it's a real thing. It just doesn't sound right to me.
No, I mean, if it is a real thing, I mean, you just got to get past it. And some guys have gone on and been great success. AJ is probably the best example. He was one of those guys that could break through the mold. And then you take somebody like Bobby Roode. I mean, he may not be a top guy. I think he should be. I think if they gave him the chance, he would break that glass ceiling, because Bobby is, in my opinion, one of the best. So if they gave him the opportunity, I feel like he'd run with it. But on the other hand, I have to look at it like, hey, Bobby he's making a great living right now. So you can't be down with that. There are so many guys that would kill to be in Bobby's spot. So Bobby needs to take, and I think he knows this. He needs to take what he can and run with it, man. I mean, if he can get a steady paycheck from WWE and he's on TV every week, and with him and Dolph, I mean, I think I think they're missing the boat on Dolph as well. But if Bobby's been through this with TNA, they put him and Storm together in the same way they did Storm and I. And they were like, we know we want to do something with you guys, but we don't know what. So they were like, okay, we're going to go with it. And Beer Money's born. Damn, I'm not doing so good with this.
But no, you're right. Bobby Roode, I think he knows his place now. He's sort of early 40s maybe, so he knows that he's probably not going to be at the very top of the card. But like you say, earning a living, he's on TV basically every week. He's been tag champion a few times in WWE, US champion, NXT champion. He was the face of that brand for a little while, so and
then we got same thing with R-Truth. He's been there since him and I went at the same time, and somebody like me didn't work out so well, but R-Truth, he's not a top guy, but he's having fun. As long as you're having fun and you get a paycheck, man, run with it. And then other guys, kind of fell in the same trap, like Eric Young. I mean, he is. You give that guy anything, he's going to make it work. And they just didn't know what they had with him. So he was one of the unfortunate that fell into the releases. And Impact, obviously Scott D'Amore and him were very close. So Scott knew what he had with Eric Young, so he's going to jump on him, and Eric's making it work still. So, I mean, it's not going to work out for everybody, but like I said in the beginning, man, there's so many opportunities out there. With we got WWE, we got AEW, we got Impact, NWA. Hopefully, is making another run with it. There's just a lot of opportunity out there right now, man, and So I want nothing for the best for everybody, especially some of those guys. You were talking about having that TNA stink on you. Well, a lot of those guys have turned out to be successful. Saban's still around with Impact. Sanjay is with AEW now. Daniels, Kazarian, all those guys are making it work. Abyss has a great role with WWE. I mean, that guy has. He can't perform at the level that when you see Abyss, you want the Abyss. So if he can't do that, if he can't perform to that anymore, let's use what we got up here, man. And that guy, I came up with that guy. He knows the business. He is in a perfect role right now to be the coach, agent, producer. And I think as stressful as that job may be, because you have Vince McMahon, you have to take everything he's given, man. And that can't be easy to sit in a boardroom with that guy and hear it. But I think even Vince McMahon, as much negative as we can say about the guy, I think even he saw what Abyss has to offer. And he even Vince is like, man, this guy knows his shit. So even Vince McMahon's going to take into that guy. So I'm just happy to see all these guys. It doesn't matter if you're on camera or off. If you can be using this business to where you have something to offer, I hope all these guys have it there. So many names we could talk about. I mean, but yeah, man, I love seeing a lot of these guys successful, no matter what role it is.
Yeah, it was really cool to see Abyss on TV a couple of times as well. In WWE, I think he was in the ring with AJ, and I was like, "Oh my god, are we gonna see Abyss back?" Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But like you say, it's really cool to see him there. So much experience he can give to the younger guys.
Yeah, man. Well. Keep in mind, this is wrestling. You never say never.
Yes, yeah, of course. You never say never. Look at Sting. Sting's 62. Yeah. So yeah, no, absolutely. Speaking of seeing people on TV, the last time we saw you on TV wasn't all that long ago. You popped up in Impact for Storm's 1000th match. How cool was that to be? I know it was only a brief little cameo, but how cool was it to be back in Impact? Was it cool to link up with people again and see loads of old faces like Gail Kim?
Yeah, it was great, man. It was great to be back, and I got to see some familiar faces, I pop in once in a while with Impact, so I got to meet a lot of those guys. But it was great to see all the guys up and coming, and it was great to see some familiar faces. You brought up Gail. I mean, it was great to see Gail and Saban and Scott D'Amore, and it was great to do something with Storm. I mean, when I got the call, I keep in touch with Scott, but when I got the call and he said something about them doing something for Storm's 1000th TNA match, I was like, let's do something, man. That's great. So yeah, it felt great to be back for that and do something with him. And, it blew up the whole face-to-face we did in the back. So that was really cool. And I mean, Storm and I, we keep in touch a lot. So it was very cool for both of us to do that. And anytime we have a chance, that even got a lot of things started to try to do stuff with us. So since then, we sometimes we just do appearances together as America's Most Wanted, but there have been times where obviously there's those that throw it out to have us in a tag match again. But while Storm is still crazy enough to get out there and take them bumps, I am not. My body has said no. So, but there have been those out there that they can still advertise America's Most Wanted. And Storm has been in singles where I've been in his corner. He's been in tag matches where I've been in his corner, and I can get involved. So, we've had some fun with, man. It was great to get out there and get back and actually do something on camera with Impact. But then it just kind of blew up from there. And I think a lot of people saw, hey, these guys are on camera together. Let's do something. So it's helped out a lot with some other promotions, indie promotions, and conventions have been great. Conventions are a big thing. They were for a while. The COVID shut it down for a little bit, but those are picking back up. So Storm and I, we have a great time every time we're together, man.
Have you not been tempted to maybe get back in and work for Impact again? Not necessarily in the ring or on camera. Is there any any potential for you to get behind the scenes and do anything? Because obviously you've got such a affinity and a relationship with the promotion. Would you not go back to contribute in some way?
I would love that, man. To throw it out there, I would love to do something like that. The promotion that I started with in Cincinnati, Abyss and I both started with. I work with them a lot. I'm helping bring up the talent, and I train with those guys a couple days a week, just trying to give out anything I can. If it's something physical, I'm there for it. But just psychology wise, and helping them put together their matches, and then there's always things going on the weekends. These guys, I try to encourage them to get out as much as they can, especially during the week. But there's always something Fridays, Saturdays, so where I can contribute. And that's exactly the role I play. I play an agent or a coach, or sometimes I can even get in the ring and be part of an official side of the office side and play that role. So, on an indie level, I'm very familiar with that, but I have, like I said, I'm in touch with Scott, and I have made it known to Scott D'Amore and Impact that I would love to play some kind of a role like that. There may not be anything right now, but we know how fast this business changes. So, I would love to be. My choice would be with Impact, just because that's home to me. That I helped build that company, so I would love to play a part with that. But there's obviously a lot of moving parts in this business, man. I mean, WWE. I mean, they release guys and then get hired. AEW is always looking for things like that. So. And even in NWA, a lot of the guys that work behind the scenes, man, I've worked with them in the past. So I would love to play a role with that, man. I may not be able to offer much in the ring, maybe an appearance once in a while, but I'd love to contribute behind the scenes. You know, I still have a little bit of my marbles left, so I'd love to be able to, pass that on to as many of the guys as I can. And, nowadays, the wrestling, I mean, it is a different style than what I know and what I believe in. But I also believe, just like we did back in 2002 with TNA, I believe that there's a mesh there. You can combine that. And the style nowadays, and I learned, we talked about this earlier in the podcast. As far as the learning tree, I have to learn myself still to this day and adapt to the style that they do today. So even when I go and I'm the one teaching and learn in the training classes, there are still things that I see. It could be something as basic, wrestling. There are still things that I see that these guys do in the ring, and I'm still learning. And some of the stuff may have been something that I learned and I forgot. And I see something that these guys put on in the ring, and I'm thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense. I still, after 27 years, I'm still learning myself. So it's just a matter of putting all that together. And, I learn from these guys, and sometimes when they get out there and do all these events and they see what the fans like, which I'm big on that, you can't go in there, don't memorize what to do out there. You have to feel the people, you have to feel the match and see how it's going. And I'm big on that. So they can bring back to me, and I can kind of mesh with and adapt to the style that they're running with nowadays. But I still say that, even that old school, sometimes, we get accused of being too old school, but I'm telling you that old school, it still works as long as you combine those two and make some kind of a mixture in there. You find what works, and so I really believe in that. I'm guilty of it nowadays. I may watch something on TV and I don't like it. I don't like the high flying and all the dives and things like that. I'm not a fan of that, but I know there's a place for it. So the people do like it, and you have to give the people what they want. So sometimes you go back to that old saying, less is more. And instead of doing 10 dives, what if we did it just once and make that one mean something?
Yes.
So that's just me. I think a lot of that, like I said, I'm still on the learning tree myself. I love learning from guys. When I get to mix it with a lot of these guys, sometimes whether it's Jeff Jarrett, I still learn from him. Once in a while I get to talk to Brian James, Road Dogg. Learning tree, man. I mean, right there. I'm still in touch with Billy Gunn. I'd love to learn from him. I mean, you never stop learning. I mean, I'm the guy that, some of these guys that I help train, they love listening to my stories, but I'm still, when I can listen to some of these other guys' stories, it's like, wow, I love doing that. I love connecting with a lot of these guys at the conventions. You get to see some old faces, man, and really get to, sit down and talk to them. And it's just great. So I love the knowledge that I've gained and the experience I've gained. I love putting that on the young guys and seeing where they go. I'd love to see where these guys go, but I also have to adapt to the style that people like nowadays. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I just try to keep an open mind, man, and, give what I can and learn what I can. And let's make the best product out there, man. I want to see wrestling get as big as it can ever get. I still think I know it's a TV product now. And it's very corporate in some areas, but I think what AEW is trying to do is they have a TV show, but we're trying to keep pro wrestling very much involved. So I'm a big fan of that, man.
Yeah, I think they've got like I said before, like the variety. They've got a really like happy medium. They've got the pro wrestling, but they've also got the sports entertainment a little bit.
Exactly.
It's a really good mix. It's really good to hear that you're as involved in wrestling as you were before. Like I had no idea that you were still doing things for your independent promotions. I'd love to see you make it to Impact, do something on a bit of a bigger scale. That'd be awesome. So hopefully, if those guys are listening, who knows? Scott D'Amore, you never know. Scott D'Amore might stumble across this episode and he might see how passionate you are about getting back into the industry and doing something there. I hope so, man. I think you've got so much that you could give, so much wisdom that you can impart. Impact's tag division is brilliant, but I just think it needs a little bit more of a push.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I still feel like I have something to give, and I am always in Scott D'Amore's ear. So every little bit helps.
Maybe you're in his ear too much. Maybe he's just like, you know what, dude, shut up. I don't know. Go away. Leave me alone. Maybe
that's that squeaky wheel.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said at the start, we've been trying to get this going for a couple of months. I'm really, really glad that I persisted. I'm really glad that we got the chance to talk. It's been an absolute blast. But before I let you go, where can people find you? And have you got are there any indie events or any conventions coming up soon that you're going to be at? Are there any?
Oh man, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I did not prepare myself. You can follow me on Twitter. It's AMW Wildcat, at AMW Wildcat. So you can follow me there and get in touch with me with that. But there's a lot of events coming up. The independent promotion I work with is the Northern Wrestling Federation. It's out of Cincinnati. A lot of great talent on that, and we do events every week. So I think the best way with that is nwfwrestling.com. And you can follow it on that. But we have events every single week. And it's big for these guys, and I encourage them to get out. A lot of stars coming up, man. And I get the satisfaction when I get a match together and I got to get out there and perform, and you get that satisfaction with that. I'm getting that out of these guys, when I can help them put something together and I can see it laid out in the match. And I get just as much from watching these guys as I got myself. So it's a really good feeling. I think a lot of these names you're going to see coming up. One guy I've really helped develop, he goes by the name Lord Crew. And I've really encouraged him to, he's getting his name known, man. He's done some things with AEW. He may even have some opportunities with Japan. So I really think that this guy is, he checks all the boxes. So I'm really hopeful to see where he goes. There's a name, Jordan Clearwater, that came out of this area. He's in the NWA right now, so you can catch them on that. he just came back and actually this past weekend came back in and performed with us. He came home and did a match, and the fans were great. It was great seeing the fans react to him. But he's making a name for himself on NWA. Is it NWA Power? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yep. So he's making a name for himself. So yeah, a lot of big names have come out of here, man. Carl Anderson of Gallows and Anderson came out of this, and so he's one of the guys that we talked about Abyss, doing the producer role, doing it now. Then we have Gallows, who's actually still out there, very active, and then we got a couple of these guys that are coming up, man. So it's a great time to be in the business, man. So I'd please check it out, and we can all. Now that we follow everything on our laptops and phones nowadays. So even if you can't catch them on TV, you can catch up with them there. So, but yeah, man, thank you so much for reaching out. And I had a blast doing this, man. It was great talking to you. And hopefully I didn't talk too much, but that's usually what people want. So, yeah, man, I'm glad we talked about a lot of the business nowadays, because that's obviously what everybody's watching, and we get some opinions going out, man. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, man, absolutely. Like I say, thank you for giving me your time. I couldn't appreciate it more. I could have talked for a lot longer as well, believe me, but we
probably bored everybody enough. So
yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to watch a 4-hour interview. So
right.
I know I don't, but honestly, no, man. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Like I said at the start, if you enjoyed this, please hit subscribe and please hit follow. Hit up the link tree. I've got a mailing list and everything now. I'll drop all of the information for where you can find Chris as well in the About section and in the description. And yeah, I'll look forward to catching you next time on It's My Wrestling Podcast.